everyone, welcome to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy, and today we're turning this trash into home decor treasure. And we're starting off with a big can of menudo that Michael J is heating up for lunch. So he washed the can out and took the label off, and then I'm going to take off the other side using my handy dandy can opener. And every time I use this, people ask me about it. I'll have it linked in the description box below, but you can see it leaves smooth edges, so there's no risk to cutting yourself or those sharp jaggedy edges. Anyway, I'll have it linked down below. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just know a lot of people will ask. So I'm going to take my big can and I'm going to start pushing it down on my work surface. And I want one side, once I figure out which side is the cleanest, because there is some ickies on that from the adhesive of the label. And I didn't even worry about taking that off. So I'm going to make that the back side along with the seam that where the can comes together. So I'm just going to keep pushing it down and shaping it and molding it into a closed bottom and then an open top. Now I kind of did it where it was a little bit wonky, so the back side is a little bit shorter than the front, so it didn't close all the way, but that worked out better anyway because now it also stands and I don't have to just hang it. And then I'm going to use my crocodile to make a hole, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to put the handle in the back or the front, so I put a hole on both sides in the front and the back. And then I'm going to use my white chalk paint and paint it completely white. And while that's drying, I went in and got some of my mom's old memorabilia, some of her writings and some stories that she had written about her life. And I'm just going to get some of these things together. I really wanted to use things that had her handwriting on them. I have some notes from my sister's wedding. I have a tag from Christmases in the past, one for Michael, one for me. And then I found her recipe for her macaroni salad, her famous macaroni salad, which is not even her best dish. But anyway, I'm going to get those all together. And I wasn't even sure if this was going to work, so I took some tissue paper and I'm going to use some Scotch tape and tape it to the bottom of my 8.5 by 11 regular copy paper. And I'm going to put all of my items onto my copy machine and then feed my paper into it so that that's what it's going to print out on. So thankfully it did work, and I was actually really surprised how well it worked because it came out so sharp and vivid. So it's going to work perfectly to add to our little smash can hanger. So once I got everything printed out, I'm going to take it off of the actual copy paper, and I was good with having some rips along the edges, and I'm going to rip it once I place it onto the face of my can. And then I'll take my Mod Podge, and using a foam brush, I'm just going to put some down on the can itself and then put my tissue paper on top, and then I'll put some extra Mod Podge on top of that. And everybody knows how to decoupage, I guess. So the placement was the only thing that had to be kind of planned out, and I like the overlapping look, and so I wanted to separate her handwritten writing from the typed out one that she had done so that it wasn't all, you know, just the cursive writing all together, which I love her handwriting so much. It's so pretty. And then on the recipe, the paper that she had written it on had a little cross at the top, so I'm going to rip that off and place that on the front somewhere there. You'll see that in a second. And then all of the edges, I'm going to use some more Mod Podge and just wrap it around to the back, and then go around the top and the bottom and just folding it over and adding more Mod Podge. And I placed my little tag, and then I saved the one that was for me, so I'm going to do a separate tag with that. And I just took some of the typed out page and I'll put that onto a metal tag from the Dollar Tree, and then add the little piece that says "For Wendy from Mom," and just do that whole Mod Podging again. And then on the edges, I'm just going to take my finger and rip that off of there, and it just gives it a really clean edge. And then I took the back of my paintbrush and I'm just going to make that hole in there. And then I'm going to take my black felt marker and I'm going to go around the top and the bottom edge of my can and give it that enamelware look, but it doesn't even have to be enamelware. It's just some extra cuteness for the top and bottom of my can. And then on my tag, I'm going to go around with a pretty thick line just to make sure that you're able to see it against the other writing, because everything is black and white and I wanted to make sure you could see it. So now I'm going to take some floral foam, and I started to cut it into the shape of my can, and then I got smart and realized, wait a minute, I can just smash it on there and it'll do the shape of the can and fit in there perfectly. So I'm just going to push that down and mush it in there, and then I'm going to start adding my flowers. So I have these old hydrangeas that I had in an arrangement, and they've been in storage forever, so they were dusty and old, but I think they're so pretty. So I'm just going to tuck those in there. There weren't many leaves that I could salvage, but I'm going to use a couple of them and just tuck those into the back towards the side. So now to hang my tag, I just took a piece of white string, and thankfully I had those front holes that I had made because I was undecided where I was going to put my hanger part that you'll see in a second, and I just fed it in through that hole and then tied a sweet little bow. Now I was going to add a perky bow to this, but after I had it all done, I really thought it just didn't need it. You could add a bow if you want, but I thought it was enough just with the tag, and I just love it so much. So anyway, to make the handle, I took a piece of floral wire and then I strung on a bunch of wooden beads, and I'll have these beads linked in the description box below, but I'm just gonna feed them on there and then use my needle nose pliers to attach them and get them all snug as a bug in a rug so that it's nice and tight and stands up straight. And I made a little curly cue on one end so that they wouldn't all fall off while I was attaching it. So that was just like my second set of hands to keep those beads on. So as you can imagine, this was such a special project, and going through her treasure trove of literary genius that she just wrote everything down and had stories. I was laughing, I was crying. It was just such a special and intimate time in just making this and gathering the items that I could use on this. But I love how it turned out, and since I have that open bottom, you can also see that I can stand it up on a tabletop or on a shelf. I'm not sure where I'm going to put it yet, but I just love this so much, and I have so many keepsakes from the family. Here's the missal from my grandpa and my mom's, and it's just such a special piece, and I love it, and I hope you guys like it too. For this project, I'm going to be using a popcorn box, and I get some of the funnest Perky prizes from our viewers. We have a license plate that was sent to me from a sweet friend in Virginia. I'm going to mark out the size of this box, and if you ever wanted to know how to bend a license plate, I'm going to teach you. You can learn it all right here. So I'm taking a piece of block, and I'm just going to go back and forth and make this license plate bend so that it'll fit around my box. So I just took that block and I'm just gonna go back and forth and back and forth, and it took some elbow grease and my muscles got a little workout here, but I knew what I wanted to do with this and I was not gonna give up. So it happened to be the exact size, and you can see I'm really giving it the strong arm here. And then once I had that one folded, I'm gonna do that to my own license plate. I got new license plates, gosh, like a year and a half, 2 years ago or so. But anyway, it just happens to fit right around this popcorn box perfectly, and I'm not even going to use hot glue, and the sides came together at exactly the right spot where there's kind of like that indentation. So anyway, my popcorn box, I cut down the little flaps because I want to fold those over to give it a clean edge. And at the bottom, since I don't want popcorn showing, I am going to use my white chalk paint to paint that completely white. And then I'll just go up like about an inch or so. The sides won't show, so I don't need to go up any further than that. So now I'm going to take my license plates and wrap it around my box and fold the flaps on the outside, leaving the inside the pretty brown of the cardboard box. And then to hold it together, I'm going to take some jute twine, and there's another indentation, you know, right around the edge. It's got a little lip, so my twine fit perfectly in there. I'm going to wrap that around a couple of times, I think 3 times, and then I'm just going to tie a really tight knot. Again, no hot glue needed. It wouldn't probably stay very well anyway, but I was able to just hold it together with that twine. And then I'll just cut off the excess at the bottom. The top, I wasn't sure if I was gonna hang something. You know, I like to keep my options open. So I'm just gonna leave that and tuck it inside in case I change my mind and wanna hang something on it. Then I'm gonna take some empty spools as lifters and then put a little plant on there and a couple of small red books. And then I took a Dollar Tree beaded garland. I'm gonna wrap that around my plant and it's done. And here it is all finished, and I love this so much. And I wasn't even sure if it was okay to use a license plate, but the lady at the DMV said it was okay, so this is not an illegal project. But I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. For this project, I'm going to be using a salad dressing bottle and a cottage cheese container. And then I found this pretty adhesive wallpaper at the Dollar Tree. And I wasn't even sure if I was going to use it for this, but I just went for it anyway. You won't need 2 pieces, you'll only need 1. So I'm going to take off all of the labels and everything, and then I painted my bottle white. I'm also going to paint my cottage cheese container white, only because there's going to be light shining through here, so I don't want to see any of that pink. So the paper will be covering the outside, and I'm going to paint that also, but it was most important to paint the inside so that the reflection of that pink wouldn't shine through. So once I got my pieces painted, and I gave the bottle a couple of coats, but most of that's going to be covered up too. But anyway, the hardest part of this was getting the contact paper, or the wallpaper, onto my cottage cheese container. And I thought it would be easy, but because it's a little bit wider at the top, which is going to be our bottom, it was a little bit hard to get that paper on there, and the sticky on the back side of this is no joke. So as soon as you put it down, it was down. So I did have one little bubble, but I got it out, a little wrinkle. But anyway, I just snipped the edges, and then I'm going to use my utility knife to cut those edges off. This is all going to be covered with some lace, so I didn't have to have it be perfect, but I still wanted, you know, to look nice. So anyway, I'm going to do that at the top and the bottom. And I kind of made it a little more difficult on myself because I wanted the sweet bird to show in the front of what's going to be my lampshade. And so that's what took a little bit of time too, and kind of to manipulate it into the right position. So if I didn't care about that, I probably could have done it in one fell swoop and just used the whole sheet and just let the birds lie where they may or perch where they may. So now I'm going to take some grip liner from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut out a little circle, and that's going to go on the top. And then I'm going to take my big fat nail and my holy wood, and I'm going to put a hole right in the middle of my lampshade. And I'm just using my hammer, and I want to make sure that it is in the middle. And so that was my big head looking to make sure. And I'm just going to tap that in there to make that hole, and then I'll come back in from the other side. And you can see my paint kind of chips away a little bit, so that's why I need that grip liner on top. So I'm just going to use my hot glue and put that in place. And then I'm going to take this crystal drawer knob or drawer pull and put that into that hole. And there's a little teeny tiny nut at the back of it to place that on there. So I'm going to put that on the inside and then screw that really tightly so that it stays snug as a bug in a rug. And then I'm going to take some small little eyelet lace that I had on hand, and I have 2 sizes. There's a small size and then a little bit larger. So I'm just going to use my hot glue and wrap that all the way around. And on the back is going to be where I place that second piece of wallpaper, so it's kind of pieced together. So that'll be at the back, and you'll just have a perfectly flat piece on the front that shows. So now for my salad dressing bottle, I'm going to take some more of that grip liner, and there's some indentations on the bottle, and I just measured how wide that was and then used that grip liner to wrap around the bottle. And then I took some Dollar Tree pretty ribbon in this really pretty green. It goes perfectly with the wallpaper, and I'll just hot glue that around the middle of my grip liner just to give it some more cuteness. And then I'll fold the end of the ribbon so that you have a clean edge, and then hot glue that to the other side on the back. And then to finish this off, I'm going to take a Dollar Tree LED light and place it right on top of my bottle, and then I'll take my lampshade and put it right on top of that. And here it is, all finished, and I think this is so adorable. I love this wallpaper. I think it's so pretty. I should do a whole room in it. And if you have a shelf that needs some lighting and you don't have access to a plug, this is perfect. I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. For this next project, I'm using the containers from my laundry beads, and I had some still left in one of the bottles, so I'm going to put that in a pretty glass jar and put that out in my laundry room. I'm going to take the tags off, and then I'm also going to be using the lid or the top and the bottom of my Menudo can that we used from our first project. And then I'm going to take my containers and use some sandpaper because we're going to be spray painting these. So I need to get them roughed up so that the paint will adhere. Now I need to cut off the tops of the containers. So I just had Michael J take it out there. He didn't want me to do this because he was afraid that it was going to go flying, but it didn't, so it was okay. So I just cut off those tops, and then I'm going to sand after he painted them. I'm going to sand it with my sandpaper again to give it a smoother finish. And then I'm going to take some mineral chalk paint and mix a little in with my antique wax, or vice versa. I'm going to take mostly mineral and add a little bit of antique wax. And then I'm going to take a chippy brush and just paint that onto my containers. And then once I get some paint on there, I'm going to take a dry chippy brush and kind of blend it all in so that it has that dimension and it's not just all solid one color. And I think that just looks really pretty and nicely blended. And I'll do that on both of my containers and also on the two lids. So when I was gathering pieces to put this video together, I really liked the shape of these bottles, but underneath the plastic labels had these designs and they were both different. So I thought I would take advantage of that. On the one with the lines, I'm going to take this white rope from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to unravel it and just take one of those strands and wrap it, hot glue it in the back, and then wrap it around where those little indentations are. Now normally I like one to be taller than the other. If I'm doing candlesticks or anything, pretty much it's just prettier on the eye, and I'll usually have to lift it. But in this case, for some reason, these two were different sizes and they have the different designs. So it was a happy accident that I got that little benefit from the two different sizes and the two different designs. And then to embellish my other candle holder, I'm going to use these little foam roses. Not these, because these are pink, but I had some white ones, but I wanted to show you the package. So originally I was going to put some half beads around here, but I was kind of getting drummer boy vibes, so I decided not to use those beads and instead put these pretty foam flowers on here. And I just think it gives it so much dimension and cuteness, and I think it looks really pretty. So I'm just going to use my hot glue gun and glue those right in the middle of those diamonds all the way around, and I had just enough, so that worked out well too. So now I'm going to take some permanent adhesive along with some hot glue, and I'm going to glue my tin can tops to the top of my candle holders. And one thing I should have done that I didn't think of until afterwards was put some rocks into this to give it some more weight. Same thing with my little lamp from before. Just because this is all plastic and it's really lightweight, if you add some rocks to the bottom of either of these, it'll give it some more weight and it won't topple over if you just walk by. It still won't, but just, you know, to give it a little more heaviness. But here they are all finished, and I think they turned out so pretty. They're really large, and so it was a little bit hard to stage this with such big items. So I love this, and I hope you guys like it too. So now this trash was kind of a challenge. I had a sweet viewer, Jean Dunn, send me two beautiful heartfelt Perky prizes recently. and it was this gorgeous handmade bag and a painting she did. It says, "Lay your burden down." It just made me cry. But in her letter, she said she thought I might be able to use these packing pieces that she used to protect the painting during shipping. So I really wanted to come up with something. So I'm going to remove all of the painter's tape, and I tried not to rip this or get it kind of worse than it was. It was kind of like uneven on some ends, and I knew I wanted 4 pieces that were the same length. So I'm going to measure them to 10 inches long, and then I had Michael J take them out and cut them down again using our miter saw, and that way they were all the same length and had super clean edges. So I bought the digital downloads of these beautiful paintings of Jesus and Mary on Etsy back in September of 2020 from a shop called Millimix. They were $6 each, but I went back to make sure they're still available, and they're only $4.50 now. So I'll have them linked down below. And then I had prints made in 8x10s at walmart.com for I think about $4 total. So I'm going to cut both of these down into 2-inch strips using my paper cutter. And I wasn't sure how I quite felt about cutting down Jesus and Mary, but when you see the project and how it turned out, it was worth that extra pain that I suffered doing this. But I also got 2 sets just in case I messed this one up, but I didn't mess up, and that's a good thing. So now I have an extra set to actually hang somewhere else. So I'm going to take some double-sided Scotch tape and put that right on the little crease of my boards. And these are like a really heavy-duty cardboard. I don't know what it's made of, but you know, it's like really, really thick. So I'm going to do that on all 4 of my pieces. And then I had to get them in order to make an agamograph. Do you guys know what an agamograph is? I had never heard that that was what it was called, but I had to look it up and see because I knew I've seen some of these before. So anyway, but I'm going to get my pictures in order. So when you're looking from one side, you're going to see a picture of Mary. And when you go to the other side, you're going to see the picture of Jesus. So that's what this is going to be, and I'll show you how I'm putting it together here. So once I have my strips all cut down and I have them in order, I'm going to put the 2 pieces that go on the same angled piece, and I'm going to Scotch tape those on the back to keep them together, and then I'll put them onto that double stick tape. And then once I get all of them on there, I'm going to put another piece of double-sided tape on the edge so that they stay down. And then for the base, I'm going to use a Dollar Tree sign, and I want to just have a little bit poking out on each side. And you're going to see in a second too, this was the perfect size for what I had to use for the backing. But anyway, I just kind of eyeballed it and marked where I wanted it cut and then took it outside. I'm not going to show you us cutting again, but then I'm going to take that piece and paint it with my white chalk paint and then let that dry. Now I had thought of putting some words on the front here, and my thought was to put "do what he tells you." Anyway, we'll get back to that in a second. So I'm going to take this Thanksgiving sign from the Dollar Tree, and you guys, this was exactly the right size and measurements to do this project. I got this afterwards because I was going to leave the back open, but I thought it would give it some more security if I put a piece of wood back there, or you know, a flat piece of wood. So I'm just going to hot glue this. I didn't even paint over it because it's not going to show, but it is exactly 11 inches, or no, it was 10 inches wide and 11 inches long. So you're going to see in just a second how perfect this really is. So again, Jesus was with me on this project. So I got those all glued down, and then I had a little leftover at the bottom. Well, that was the exact measurement of the piece of wood that would become my stand. Anyway, I thought it would be fun if you guys gave me some ideas of what to put at the bottom. I ended up not putting anything. It doesn't even need it because it's so pretty, I think. And it becomes a little vase to put some greenery in, which is what I'll do. So you can see here on one side you see Jesus, you turn it to the other side, and there's Mary. Anyway, I'm going to put some boxwood greenery inside of there, and I'm just folding the stems so that they stand up nice and straight. And I wanted you guys to give some ideas of what you would put at the bottom, or a saying, or a scripture that really speaks to you. Just something, I mean, I'm not even probably going to put anything on there, but I would love to hear what your thoughts are. I love how this turned out so much. Thank you, Jean. And I hope you guys like it too. For this project, I'm using 2 Brie containers and 2 2-liter bottles of soda. and I'm gonna take the labels off. Now the only part that's really tricky is the adhesive that's in one kind of long strip along one side. I'm gonna use some acetone and my CRICUT spatula. Now you have to be really careful with this because I don't want to scratch it, but husband was so smart. He said put the lid on and it won't be as mushy when I'm trying to scrape it off. So that guy, I'm telling you, he helps me so much. Anyway, I'm going to take my utility knife and cut the bottom of this off. There's a little indentation down at the bottom, so I was going to follow that line. But with my knife, I wasn't able to do a really straight line. I kept going off the page or off the road. Anyway, I'm going to get that off of there and then use my scissors to get it nice and straight. And then because I like things to be, you know, one taller than the other, staggered, I'm going to make the other one a little bit shorter so I didn't have a line to follow. And really all you have to do on that is just cut it, you know, eyeball it, and then just set it down and keep checking it and cutting off where it's a little bit higher until it gets level. So once I got my domes done, I'm going to take my brie containers and I'm using the bottom portion, and then I'll take some floral foam, cut it to the size so that it fits in there, but I need a gap around the edges so that my domes fit over it. And then I'm going to cut that in half. These are the Dollar Tree floral foam pieces, so it was the perfect size, and I just cut them in half, and then I hot glued them down to the bottom of my brie holders. And then I'll take some reindeer moss and I'm just gonna glue along the corners so that it doesn't go over the sides and get too fat so that my dome doesn't fit. And then once I get all of the edges done, then I'm gonna do the middle of them and cover up that foam completely. So now I'm going to take a couple of different Dollar Tree greenery pieces, and I'm just going to cut off a couple of those little pieces and pop those into the middle. Once I get them cut out and bunched up the way I want, I need to test it to make sure that the dome's going to go over it and how tall I need it to be. And then I'll put that into the floral foam and then cover that with my dome. And these, I don't know, stuff just seems to happen perfectly. They fit perfectly into those brie containers. So I think half of the fun of doing these projects is finding things that work together. So I took the bells off of these cute little windmills. One of them I had used in another project, so I stole it from that project. But I'm going to disassemble these and take all the goodies out of it, and then I'm going to paint those both white. One of them you see is black. That's the one I had from another project. So, you know, recycle, reuse, reduce, however that goes. Anyway, I'm just going to paint these completely white, and then I'm going to take some wire and I'm just wrapping it around this little tube. This happens to be my Lady Athena drill pack that comes with the drill that you get from Natalie at Design to the Nines. I'll have that drill linked in the description box below as well. But anyway, I'm just going to twist that wire and then feed it through a wood bead, and then I'm going to feed it into the bell and then open up those pieces of wire so that the bell stays on the wire, and then I'm going to add some hot glue just for some more security. And then I'm going to take those little tops and glue them onto the top of my pop bottles, and they are done. And here they are all finished, and oh my gosh, you guys, I think these are so stinking pretty. And I don't think you can tell that these are, number one, soda pop bottles, or number two, Dollar Tree greenery in there. I think it's just so pretty. Anyway, doesn't matter what kind of top you end up using. If you don't have these bells, you can just wrap it with twine. You can do anything, but now you know you can use 2-liter bottles as beautiful home decor domes. I love these, and I hope you guys like it too. For this next project, I'm using 5 tin cans, and I just took all the labels off and the gluey stuff. There's still a little bit on there, but I'm going to turn them so that you can't see that, and anything that can't be hidden will be towards the back. So because they have a little bit different patterns and there's two that are the same, a little bit smaller than the other three, I'm going to put those on the end, and then I made the patterns match so the middle one is different from all the rest. And so I'm going to take a Sharpie and make marks where there's going to be a hole that's kissing each other. So the one that's next to it, I need those holes to line up, and I'm going to do 2 holes on each side. So I took my big fat nail again, and I'm going to hammer in those holes, and I'm making it towards the top. You can see here, one above the other. And then just because there's those little spiky points that will come out, you know, the sharp edges from where my nail went through, I'm going to use my needle nose pliers to push those down. Those aren't going to show or be exposed, so it's basically just to get the cans as close to each other as possible. And then I'm going to paint all of them with my Waverly chalk paint in white. And then once I get them painted, I'm going to print out from my Cricut a word. It's going to say faith, and I'm going to use the font Cream Candy. And this is the font where it's got the real pretty long letters with the little swirlies at the beginning and the end. Anyway, to put our piece together, I'm going to take some nylon zip ties, and I'm going to feed it through the bottom hole and go into the second can, and then I'll come back around, go through the top hole, and then out the other can. And then I want my piece, you know, where it goes through, I want that all the way against the wall of the can, and then I'll take the other piece, the open piece or the end piece, and feed it in through that locking mechanism. Does that make sense, you guys? Do you understand what I'm saying? Well, you can see it here. Anyway, and then I'm going to pull it from the bottom so that it's nice and tight, and those cans will stay together. So now I'm going to take my adhesive vinyl, and I'm going to put a letter on each one of my cans. And the way I had them cut out was so that I would have those little swirlies that would be long, but it's going to look like the words are all flowing throughout the whole piece. So I had to do some finagling here to make those pieces line up and be longer. And I cut out an extra A because when I typed it out on my design space, it wouldn't do the front little swirly. But you can see I made this so that the word would be really long, and then I could cut in between my letters before attaching them to my cans, and then the little swirlies will go kind of around the edges, and then when you're looking at it from the front, it looks like it's all one word. And then once I get them lined up on the cans, I'm just going to use my little squeegee and push it on there and make it go through those grooves so that it's nice and secure to each of my cans. And then to fill this up, I'm going to use some Dollar Tree and Walmart lavender. I actually like the Dollar Tree lavender better than the Walmart one. So next time I see them, I'm going to grab a whole bunch. But I'm just going to fold those stems again and pop them in there. You don't need to use floral foam or anything. And look how pretty this is. I love this so much. You could totally do some distressing or the enamel wear finish, whatever you want to do. But I just love how clean and fresh this looks. I love it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed all of these projects, and if you did, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. If you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell right next to it, so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!